Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, I am the Old Humble Guy, and usually on this channel we do whiskey stuff, but today we're going to do gin stuff, and we're going to talk about gin. So let's talk about gin, shall we? Gin is one of the oldest world alcohols. It's one of the foundation alcohols. You got your five foundation alcohols. You have your whiskey, vodka, tequila, rum, and of course, gin. And gin, let's dispel with the mythology and the mystery of gin right now. It is flavored vodka. It's all it is. It's all it is. It really is just flavored vodka. But what makes gin different from your absolute Citron is that gin is primarily flavored with juniper berries. That's where it gets its name. It's primarily flavored juniper, and there's a reason for that, and we'll get to that in a minute. But primarily, you're going to have juniper berries, but you're also going to have some other herbs and spices that go into it. Juniper, anise, cardamom. You're also going to have some kind of citrus peel. And generally, when you get into some more artisan distilled things, you'll have 13, 14, 15 different herbs and spices that go into the flavoring compounds, the botanical mix that makes the gin. You can literally go down your herbs aisle at your local grocery store and get everything you need to make gin. No doubt, no question in my mind. You could probably do this if you have a decent sized grocery store. And some places even have a full on herbal store. Just go to that herbal store and get everything you need. In fact, all you really need to do is get your herbs and spices that you want to put into your gin, a little cheesecloth, wrap it up in that cheesecloth, and drop it into a mason jar filled up with some vodka. Let it steep overnight, maybe 48 hours. And over the course of that 48 hours, you're going to get all the flavorings and compounds out of those botanicals and into your vodka. Your vodka might have a little bit of an off color from the flavors, not the flavors, but the proteins and compounds in those botanicals. But you're basically at that point going to have gin. If you own a distillery, like some people do, then you can take that gin and run it through a still and clarify it, and maybe take that botanical bag and put it in a gin basket and distill it through there and get the steam going through your gin basket. But that's technical stuff, and I don't really want to talk about the technical stuff right now. I want to talk about the history of gin. So we're going to talk about the history of it, and the history is simply it simply tracks the medicinal alcohol as it leaves the Middle East and works its way up through the Eastern European states and into the Central European states. In the earliest days of distilled alcohol, alcohol spirits, it was known as eau de vie, water of life. It was medicinal alcohol, and its purpose was literally antiseptic. When you live in a world where you get a cut and it gets infected and they cut off your arm, if you could apply something to that wound to clean it, to avoid infection so you didn't lose your limb, then it was magic. It was it was something that could literally save your life, and that's what they used it for. The same way that you use alcohol swabs today is how they used alcohol way, way, way back in 400 BC when alcohol was first discovered and first applied and used by mankind in civilization. So as we go forward from there, primarily in its early days, alcohol was made from fermented fruits, fermented sugars, because it was much easier to ferment sugars than it was to ferment grains, and you could get much more alcohol when you distilled it. But as they moved out of the Middle East and into the East European and Central European regions, they used less and less fruit and more grains. And those grains had less and less flavor versus the original fruits, and this is when alcohol splits off into brandy and vodka. And at this point, the alchemists and monks who are making the alcohol look for ways to not only make their eau de vie more medicinal, but also to give it a little bit of aroma and flavor that wasn't just the alcohol smell and flavor. And that was by adding herbs that had medicinal compounds or medicinal qualities to them. And this is where the juniper comes back into play. This, I said, there's a reason for that. This is the reason for that. Juniper was thought to have several medicinal qualities as an herb. We know today it's a diuretic, but back then they thought it had all kinds of medicinal qualities, and they wrapped it up with all kinds of other stuff. And that's when juniper and other things went into the neutral grain spirit that they were also distilling out of whatever grains that they had on hand, usually rye, sometimes barley and wheat and other things. So now their medicinal eau de vie now has juniper in it, and that's where the gin gets its name. The Latin word for juniper is juniperius. The Dutch word is genever. The French word is genève. It has several letters that aren't pronounced, and then that kind of gets translated over into the Old English version of Genever, and that gets shortened down to gin, which is how we get the name of gin. And around the 11th century or so is when it makes the crossover from medicinal to consumption. So late in that 11th century, early in the 12th century is when they start cutting it down from the high proof gin to the lower proof gin, because not only does it smell good and not only does it make you feel good when they give it to you for anesthesia, it makes you feel good when they give it to you for not anesthesia too. And they've said, well, maybe if we could drink some more of it. That's why they cut that proof down and made it so that you didn't poison yourself and die when you actually consumed it. So that's the history of it. I mean, literally, crash course, 5 minutes. That's where it all comes from. That's why it's juniper berries. That's why it's called gin. That's where it came from. That's how it got to where it's at. But what's most important for all of this is, what do you do with it once you get a hold of it? Everyone knows how to make the gin and tonic. But let me give you another another twist on a classic cocktail. This should be in everyone's home bar. This is ginger ale. This is Canada Dry ginger ale specifically, but ginger ale should be in everyone's home bar. Ginger ale mixes well with every single one of the primary world alcohols. Gin, and we know whiskey and ginger ale, tequila and ginger ale, vodka ginger ale, rum and ginger ale, and of course gin and ginger ale. Start with some ice. Take a normal dose, 2 ounce dose of gin. I am using an artisan gin that we make at the Old Humble Distilling Company called Flower Moon Gin. It is delicious. And then just add some gin to it. Top that off with a lime, and you have the gin buck. There you go. A nice, delightful cocktail that goes with your history lesson. Guys, I'm the Old Humble Guy. Till next time, be awesome to each other. Cheers.